If you had $250 to spend on one special bottle, would you buy Bordeaux or Burgundy? For many collectors, that's one of the hardest decisions to make. Not because one is better than the other, but because they offer completely different experiences. When I started building my cellar more than 30 years ago, I wrestled with exactly the same question. Should I spend my budget on the structure and longevity of Bordeaux or the elegance and perfume of Burgundy? Over time, two wines kept proving they deserved their place in my cellar. Château Figeac from Saint-Émilion and Clos de Vougeot from Domaine de la Vougeraie. I have bought them across multiple vintages, opened them with friends and family countless times, and if I were rebuilding my cellar today, I would happily buy them again. The interesting part, despite everything that has happened to fine wine prices over the last decade, recent vintages still sell for around $230 and $260. For wines of this pedigree, that's becoming increasingly rare. If you are looking for one truly memorable bottle, I think it's money exceptionally well spent. In this video, I will compare two bottles from my cellar, explain how differently they taste, which dishes they pair best with, and ultimately, which one I would recommend depending on the style of wine you enjoy. And before we begin, while you are still discovering your preferences, buy 3 or 6 bottles rather than a full case of 12. A cellar should evolve alongside your taste. First, a quick look at their respective appellations. Saint-Émilion. Saint-Émilion is one of Bordeaux's oldest wine regions. By Roman times, important vineyards already surrounded the town. During the Middle Ages, trade through nearby Libourne helped establish its reputation across Europe. Today, it's famous for Merlot-based wines that combine richness with freshness. Think ripe black fruit, spice, earthy complexity, and a velvety texture that can age for decades. It's one of Bordeaux's most selective styles, rich enough to impress, yet refined enough to stay elegant. Clos de Vougeot. Now to Burgundy. Clos de Vougeot couldn't be more different. The vineyard was created by Cistercian monks during the 12th century, with the name first appearing in the year 1212. Few vineyards capture Burgundy's complexity better than Clos de Vougeot. Nearly 50 hectares are shared between around 80 owners. That's important. Clos de Vougeot isn't one wine. The quality varies enormously depending on where the vines are located and who makes the wine. The very best examples combine dark cherry fruit, floral perfume, earthy complexity, and remarkable finesse. Now, let's see how those differences translate into the glass. Figeac. Perched on Saint-Émilion's western plateau beside Pomerol, Château Figeac sits on gravel over clay soils that resemble the meadow more than the rest of Saint-Émilion. Its blend is equally unusual. Rather than relying almost entirely on Merlot, Figeac builds its wine around Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Merlot in almost equal proportions. That makes it one of the most left-bank-inspired wines on the right bank. The estate owes much of its modern reputation to Thierry Manoncourt, whose leadership from 1947 to 2010 transformed Figeac into one of Saint-Émilion's benchmark estates. In 2022, it was deservedly promoted to Premier Grand Cru Classé A. On the nose, I find ripe berries, plum, baking spices, tobacco, cedar, and delicate hints of rosemary and dried rose petals. The palate layers raspberry, blackberry, cherry, orange peel, roasted fig, dark chocolate, truffle, licorice, and mineral notes into a wine that feels both generous and remarkably precise. Recent vintages have become noticeably more refined. They still have depth and concentration, but now carry themselves with far greater elegance. For me, that's what makes modern Figeac so compelling. The 2021 vintage sells for around $235, while the 2019 is around $260. Clos de Vougeot. Domaine de la Vougeraie was created in 1999 by bringing together the Boisset family's finest vineyard holdings across the Côte de Nuit and Côte de Beaune. The estate converted fully in biodynamic farming in 2001 and today farms almost 40 hectares, including 9 Grand Crus and 11 Premier Crus. Its Clos de Vougeot holding totals 1.41 hectares, mostly in one of the best sections in the upper part of the vineyard. The oldest vines date back to 1946. The nose opens with dark cherry, raspberry, game, damp earth, pressed flowers, and gentle spice. The palate has an almost cashmere-like texture. Black cherry, red currant, licorice, cinnamon, and subtle creme brulee notes are supported by smoky oak and forest floral complexity. What impresses me most is its balance. There is real concentration here, yet everything feels effortless. Power never overwhelms elegance. With time in bottle, the wine becomes increasingly mineral, layered, and complex. For me, it's a superb expression of Clos de Vougeot. The 2020 vintage sells for around $230, while the 2022 is around $265. The verdict: these are two wines I have continued buying for many years. Not because they are famous, not because they are fashionable, but because every time I open them, they remind me why I fell in love with Bordeaux and Burgundy in the first place. Perhaps what impresses me most is that both can still be bought for around $250. For a Premier Grand Cru Classé A and a Burgundy Grand Cru of this caliber, that's becoming increasingly difficult to find. The choice simply comes down to what you are looking for. Choose Château Figeac if you enjoy structured Cabernet-influenced Bordeaux that combines depth with remarkable freshness. Its layered dark fruit, cedar, and mineral character make it a superb partner for roast lamb, beef tenderloin, duck, wine mushrooms, or truffle dishes. It's a wine that rewards patience, but even in its youth, it already shows extraordinary balance. Choose Domaine de la Vougeraie's Clos de Vougeot if you prefer Burgundy's silky texture, floral perfume, and quiet complexity. It pairs beautifully with roast duck, rack of lamb, game birds, roast beef, and washed rind cheeses, such as Époisse or Chateau. Cheeses whose history, fittingly, is closely linked to the very monks who created Clos de Vougeot centuries ago. Personally, I wouldn't choose one over the other. They satisfy completely different moods. Figeac reminds me why Bordeaux became one of the world's great wine regions. Clos de Vougeot reminds me why Burgundy can be endlessly fascinating. If I were rebuilding my cellar today, these are still two bottles I would happily make room for again. If you had around $250 to spend on one special bottle, which direction would you go? Bordeaux or Burgundy? I would love to hear which side you lean towards. And if there is another Bordeaux versus Burgundy comparison you would like to see next, let me know in the comment section below. You will find more on my cellar insights and tasting notes on Instagram. Massive thanks for watching today, and I will see you in the next one.